Welcome back. You're watching France 24. Coming up, after a blast-off for a first trip around the moon in more than half a century, the Artemis II mission poised to burst out of Earth's orbit in the coming hours. It's day 2 of a mission that will take the 4 crew around the far side of the moon. We'll be speaking with a 2-time space traveler. France's most famous astronaut, Thomas Pesquet, joins us live. Thanks for being with us shortly. Talk about front row seats. An American Airlines passenger flying from St. Croix in the Caribbean to Charlotte, North Carolina, able to record by looking out the window through to mobile device the moment when the first lunar mission in more than half a century blasted off from Cape Canaveral in Florida. The Artemis II mission well on its way as it prepares now to leave the Earth's orbit. Antonia Kerrigan has more.
Artemis II is the first manned mission outside the Earth's orbit since 1972, which is why a major focus will be on the human body and how it reacts to deep space. Astronauts will be taking regular saliva samples so that researchers can track the behaviour of their immune systems, like what dormant viruses might be reactivated in the unnatural conditions of high radiation and weightlessness. Another experiment involves taking tiny samples of their own bone marrow with them on so-called organ chips.
We have a really interesting experiment on this mission called Avatar, where each of our 4 crew members have some samples, some tissue samples that are going to experience the same environment that they experience, and then we'll compare those.
Bone marrow is responsible for producing red blood cells, white blood cells and platelets, so its behavior will be pivotal to human health in space. The astronauts have also been receiving geology lessons ahead of the mission and even visiting moon-like landscapes on Earth to help them document the lava flows and craters they will see during their 3 hours on the other side of the moon.
While we're at the moon, we're going to take images and look at the far side of the moon. We're going to take our astronauts farther than any human has ever been from Earth before, so that we'll break the record from Apollo.
57 years after the first moon landings, the moon is back in fashion, and this time NASA want a permanent presence there. Itself a stepping stone to Mars.
And that brings us to our Spotlight segment. And we're pleased to welcome from Toulouse in southwest France, a European Space Agency astronaut, Thomas Pesquet, twice a space traveler. Thank you for being with us here on France 24.
Hey, my pleasure.
So Artemis II capturing everyone's imagination here. With this launch, and as you heard in that clip, it'll be the furthest ever that humans have gone away from the Earth. It's something to think about.
Absolutely, it makes you ponder, right? And that's just due to their trajectory, which is going to swing them around the moon on the far side and so far behind the moon that they'll go further than the Apollo astronauts did back in the 60s and 70s when they landed on the moon. So no moon landing that time, but still a lot of data on the technical side of the vehicle, on the scientific side, and that record that they'll be the furthest away ever from Earth.
Yeah, and there'll be this moment where they're the other side of the moon, where there'll be no communication with Earth, right?
Yeah, you gotta feel alone at that point, right? You're the furthest away anybody has ever been. Nobody can come get you. Nobody can come help you. The moon is tiny, and the Earth is even tinier. That tiny dot in the distance, and you have a communication blackout. So that's probably a moment for introspection. But somehow it's still appealing to all the astronauts in the world. We wish we were in their steads right now.
Now, you've been to the International Space Station. You've always got something to do when you're on board, when you're out in space. Day 1 for the astronauts has included fixing the toilet, I'm told, and they had instructions from ground control on that. Does that bring back memories?
Absolutely, 100%. For some reason, the toilet seems very mundane, right? But it's the most important system almost. And it broke on the very first day of my very first mission. So it did put a smile on my face to hear that they were facing the same problem I did now almost 10 years ago. But it just makes you think everything is challenging in space. Everything is complicated. You have to figure out smart and technological ways to do even the most mundane things that you don't even think about on Earth because it's a different environment, because everything is challenging, everything is dangerous. And so it takes a lot of work from the astronauts, but not only from also all the engineers and all the staff on the space agencies and the industrial partners who put together those missions. So tip of the hat to all this workforce.
Right, and we're not even 24 hours in. Four crew members on board. 3 of them are American. The Canadian, Jeremy Hansen, it's his first time in space. What's going through his head right now?
I think he must be so thrilled because we're from the same class. We were hired together in 2009, and the same was for Reed Wiseman, who's the commander of the station. So I've known those guys forever. We've done so much together, training, underwater missions, survival trainings. I even spent a few days in space with Victor Glover, who's the pilot on the mission. And so Jeremy, he's been waiting for so long, since 2009, for his first shot at a moon mission. That tells you the sacrifices, that tells you the dedication and everything it takes, to be on the launch pad, to climb on top of the rocket and strap yourself and just blast into space. So he must be thrilled. I'm happy for all of them, but I'm even happier for him because it's the most deserved adventure there ever was.
And you see the Earth rise and set. That's I don't know how you describe that.
I think it really, for me, it makes me smile. I mean, you see me smiling because it's just a shift in perspective. Everything becomes a little bit smaller, and the things you can't really grasp with your senses, the things that are only that are accessible to the mind, like how big the Earth is, how limited it is as well, and it's something that you instantly see. So that's why people call it the overview effect. I think by spending some time in space, it changes your perspective on how we're all on the same boat. And we have to take care of the ship. We have to manage the natural resources. That's something you come back to Earth with, and that's something that's been with me at least ever since I came back from my first mission.
So first, let's explain. Right now, they're orbiting the Earth, and they're orbiting the Earth because that gravitational pull will help them speed off into outer space.
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, they also want to test all their systems in relative proximity to the Earth so that if something happens, then they can come back. And then once everything is tested, once they're ready to go, then they'll use the swing by effect of the Earth. Like you imagine a swing really to propel a stone, to cast a stone, and that's what they're going to use to go over on a trajectory to the moon, which is a free return trajectory. It's pretty elegant, which means that the trajectory they're on, it gets close enough to the moon and in a good enough condition so that if they have an engine failure, propulsion is dead for some reason, then just that swing that they're going to do around the moon is going to have the same effect and it's going to send them back. So passively, they would come back in case anything happened, and that's why they picked up that trajectory.
What's the interest in examining the far side of the moon?
I think for now, it's this mission, let's be honest, it's mostly to test the systems, right? To test the launcher, to make sure everything is fine, to test the spacecraft. The reentry is going to be challenging, the thermal shield, and everything it takes to send humans that far away and back home safely. So that's objective number one of the mission. They'll do some science experiments as well. We haven't been in that area very far from the Earth, less protected by the Earth's magnetic field from the cosmic radiations, from the sun radiation. So they're going to have to also adjust to that environment. They'll bring back some valuable data. And then as far as the moon, I think they'll do some observation. We don't have that many images from that side, and then they'll come back with all this, and then next time around, maybe not the next one, maybe the one after will be the big landing of our century, and that's going to be an incredible adventure.
Yeah, it's supposed to be Artemis IV, and now the scheduled date is 2028 for actually landing on the moon. Is landing on the moon scientifically significant, or is it a vanity project?
No, it is scientifically significant. What's important to understand is that when we go to space, it's always two things, right? And people sometimes consider one in isolation too much, and it leads to sometimes false analysis. When we're doing two things, it's really exploration, right? And exploration is just human beings wanting to know their environment, to be safe, to understand what's going on, to make their life, easier and safer. And that's what we've done on the ground, over the centuries, and that's what we're doing in space. It's just the same thing. And as we're doing this, we're also trying to make good use of those missions scientifically. And that's the good thing about space exploration, is that while doing exploration, you have access to an environment where you can make discoveries that you couldn't make on the planet. And it's very obvious on the ISS. The ISS is exploration because it teaches you how to have long missions, longer and longer missions in space. For the next steps, going to Mars would be a 900-day affair. But it also brings back a lot of data on combustion, on physiology, material science, and things that we couldn't do on the ground. And the moon is going to be the same. The moon is a step on that road, on that exploration road, but it's also, for example, on the moon, you can read the beginning of the history book of the Earth. The moon is a piece of the Earth that was detached at the very beginning of its existence. On the Earth, the rocks are being eroded, plate tectonics, erosion, wind. You can't really see the first 2 billion years of the Earth's history. And on the moon, you just bend down, pick up a rock, and then you have access to the first pages of the book. So it's extremely important. But again, science and exploration work together. It's true on the ISS, it's going to be true on the moon. It's going to be even truer the day when we go to Mars.
You sound like you're a true believer. You're definitely sure that one day humanity will go to Mars.
Oh, 100%, 100%. I think that our biggest limit is our imagination. If you look at space exploration, interestingly enough, the writers, the authors, the poets, science fiction, movies, etc., they predicted everything, right? And then we just did it. And then we went to the moon, and then now we have space stations. And then it's just a matter of time, right? We haven't been doing it for so long, 50, 60 years. It's nothing at humanity's scale. So the progress that we've made in 50 years is just astounding. I think we'll see further and further space travel in the future. There are key technologies that are going to help us unlock those missions. The day we fly really faster, then the missions are lighter, they're easier to launch, they're easier to land, and then that unlocks a lot of new possibilities. So it's not that easy. It's not magical. It takes a lot of hard work every day. But I truly believe we'll see astronauts on the moon very soon. We'll see astronauts on Mars one day, and then it's going to keep going from there. It's just human nature.
Speaking of human nature, one final question for you, because you're somebody. First time you go to space, you go with Soyuz. Second time you go to space, you go with SpaceX. Kind of both sides. Here, right now, when it comes to this lunar mission and actually landing humans on the moon, there's a competition with the Chinese who say they're going to do it by the year 2030. Is that good? Is that healthy, that competition? Or is there a bit of danger in that rivalry?
I think for now, if you're asking me, obviously I don't speak for the organizations, but I don't mind that competition really, because it's yes, there's ideology behind, and there's a lot of ego, national pride, but it's a competition, for exploration, for science, for research, for technology. I don't see anything really bad in that. So as long as it's obviously contained to those domains, but I think it's very powerful fuel, that competition, for kickstarting an activity. But then obviously it runs up at some point, right? Once someone crosses the finish line first, then everybody stops running because the race has been won. And that's why we transition to scientific cooperation. And that's the model that we're applying every day on the ISS, all those countries working together for science and for discovery. And so right now we're adding back a dose of competition in space exploration. And I think it's going to make it, it's going to give it a powerful kick for some years until someone wins that next race. And then we'll be able to transform that competition into cooperation for the next step. That's what we've done for the ISS. And that's what we'll do again for research on the moon, having a permanent international base on the moon, like we do on Earth in extreme environments, in Antarctica and in some other places. I think it's going to be good eventually. All the spin-offs, everything that's going to cascade in the society is going to be very positive.
And we'll be looking for the results, of course, of this mission. And I hope that those four astronauts return safely at the end of their 10 days. Thomas Pesquet, so many thanks for joining us from Toulouse.
Pleasure. Happy.